What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Inside Major League Pickleball Pod. It is such a fun week. We just wrapped up San Clemente. I was there all weekend. Michelle McMahon here, one of the broadcasters of Major League Pickleball, Voices of Pickleball, Tyson Apostle, one of the founding fathers of pickleball podcasting.
Multiple years now.
Multiple years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Incredible, right? Thank you. It feels good.
Yeah, we got to celebrate your anniversary here sometime soon. We're just going to make up the date that it started.
Yeah,
I imagine it's not something that you really kept track of.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my kids' birthdays and the day I started podcasting for pickleball multiple years. So, yeah, things are great. Michelle, It looked like you had a ton of fun in San Clemente.
So fun.
And,
it was best yet.
Best
They
yet.
just keep getting better.
Really?
Yep, it
How
really
so?
was. The venue, I think, made it more of an intimate feel, but still alive. I loved the aesthetic of it, like the grass seating. The VIP section felt very VIP. You had a cabana with the umbrellas. I thought the play was amazing. The margin of error is getting thinner and thinner. We saw teams that hadn't make runs in the past make runs. So from top to bottom, I think it's becoming more of a well-oiled machine. We're not just like figuring things out on the fly. It's like, okay, we're in a rhythm now from a broadcast perspective and an event perspective. And it's just only getting bigger and bigger. And I loved the Lifetime Athletic Country Club of San Clemente. So huge shout out to them. Very bougie accommodations. And it made me feel very prim and proper for this season finale.
You got to take care of the voice box, if you want a premium product.
Yeah, we're on a record-setting week here, Tyson.
Good.
So barely, you just got enough for the podcast.
Enough
today
left.
because we got a killer guest. So before we get to that, should we introduce our sponsors?
Let's do it.
Okay. Let's give a thanks to Pro XR, the official paddle of MLP, the only paddle custom fit for your grip. Knock Around, the official sunglass partner of Major League Pickleball. Quality shades that won't break the bank. And Aura Organic, the official nutrition partner of MLP. Transform your health with plant-based nutrition from Aura. All right, Tyson, let's get to our guest. Fresh off of the inaugural season championship. He's a beast on the pickleball court, one of the most underrated players on the Major League Pickleball circuit. Two-time champion now of Major League Pickleball, and he also loves golden retrievers. And for that, we are thrilled to welcome in Thomas Wilson. Thomas, thanks for joining us, first and foremost. Hi,
Thanks,
how are you?
Pumped, excited.
Okay, well, let's begin. For those who didn't watch MLP San Clemente, you guys were in a gauntlet Group C. So let's back up to group play, to quarterfinal rounds. You lost to the Seattle Pioneers in group play, still advanced to the single elimination rounds, lost to the New Jersey Fives in the quarters. The only team that could control your destiny for the LA Mad Drops into the season super final. So let's begin back with the quarterfinals. How much pressure was the team feeling at that point, knowing the super final was lingering on Monday, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously felt it. We didn't talk about it too much. I think it was in the back of our minds the whole time, but we just knew it was in our hands. So our plan was just to go out there and play, treat it like any other match, which we tried to, but the Fives played so well. We battled, but obviously came up short. So just feel super fortunate to even make the super finals after that. I mean, it was a dogfight.
So so you lose to the Fives. Now, what is the team doing? Are you watching every move the Fives are making, hoping for their downfall so that you guys can advance to the super finals? Like, what was that like? Was it a pizza party at a hotel room? What are we doing here? The Fives, what are they doing? Or the Mad Drops, what are they doing?
We kind of did our own thing. I mean, a lot of us obviously were obsessively tuning in, but it was tough to root against the team because, like, you want to win your way in, not like, okay, we lost to them, now we hope they lose. So it was kind of an awkward position to be in, honestly. So
But
we were
you
just
did
like,
hope
hey,
for them to lose, right?
Yeah, of course. But,
okay.
it was, if they won, then they deserved it. So we were like, hey, if we have a shot, we'll take it. But, we didn't have any voodoo dolls or anything. So
Sure. What does Annalise voodoo doll look like?
I'm not sure. I'm not the keeper of that.
Who is?
No idea.
Drew Brees? Just kidding.
Maybe Zubin. I don't know.
Okay.
I know who it is. It's Zubin's son who stole 20,000 cookies at the ownership dinner
He's a 10-year-old genius. That kid.
Wow.
I think it was him that he crumbled one of the team's cookies in front of our very eyes and was like, "This is
Wow.
what championship Saturday looks like for the Mad Drops."
Yeah, and then in the super final, his mid-match interview saying, "I love when Andiamo destroys the Pioneers." I was like, "Dang, dude."
That's hilarious.
He's ruthless.
I know.
So
He was the real GM of the team.
is he?
Yeah, he was
He's
giving us
guiding and
speeches
directing.
pre-match, like pulling us aside, like, "Thomas, you got this, man."
I love it. Did it help?
Enough,
I mean, you're here, Thomas.
just enough.
So you were watching the fives. You watch them lose. Is there a celebration? What is it like? Are you all texting at that point? Like, come on, be real with us.
Yeah,
here.
no. So I know Julian was there. I was there. I think Catherine was watching online.
Yeah.
I happened to yell, "I love Ben Johns" right after, and I was
Okay.
like, never thought I'd say that. Probably won't ever say it again. But he did say, "I love you too," and I was like, "Thank you." And
He
then I
heard
look,
you?
yeah, he turned around, and then I
Did he
see
grab
Julian.
your kiss and blow it back?
I should have. No, I wasn't as quick as Hayden was on that one. But then Julian's in the corner, top of the stadium, just like doing some weird, awkward dance.
Mhm.
He said it's the only dance move he knows, so he was celebrating. I
So
mean, we all
good.
were, obviously, because it's so hard to win one match in MLP, much less make it all the way to the super final. I mean, any team could make it, right? Like, look at the
Well,
scores, look at the margins.
Any team.
Most teams.
Not the Pandas. Just kidding.
Well, hey,
Oh, shots fired.
hey, they're all close.
They are. I mean, and you look at the scores. Yes, they are close.
Yeah.
So okay, so celebration, but now, like game face, right? Like what? So now you run back to the hotel, go to sleep as fast as you can, try to get your 12 hours because I know you do. You said 12 hours a night, whether you need it or not, right? Is that?
That would be nice. I think my wife gets 12 hours. I'm probably half because I have a day job. No, so we went out to eat as a team,
Okay.
and then we kind of started to strategize. And Julian's the captain. He's maybe a little bit more hard-headed in a good way and sometimes a bad way. So actually, when he left, we started to strategize, and we're like, look, going against the Pioneers, we're 0-2. We got to change some stuff up. So we're like, do we put me on the left? Do we switch mixed? We had all these ideas, and we were scheming on how we can get through to Julian because he has one way of thinking, and it's mostly right. And it turns out it was right because we followed his strategy after talking for 2 hours and doing nothing that we came up with. So yeah, we spent a lot of time strategizing, which was interesting because I'm not huge with that in tournaments in general. I know guys like the Johns are, but yeah, definitely a lot of time spent trying to figure out how to beat those guys because they're so good.
Does this prove that Julian Arnold is always right?
Man, I would say almost always right.
Okay.
But when he's not.
Then he's wrong.
Okay, but how do you approach then? You guys were the only men's doubles team to beat Ben Johns and Tyler Leung, and I know you mentioned you're not a big strategy guy. You know what Ben Johns is going to do every single time. It's not a mystery, right?
Right.
So I would think that the strategy is not a mystery either. It's just he's too good to beat everybody, although that's when he's playing with Colin, which different look when you have Tyler in the middle, not to throw him under the bus, but yeah.
Right. Different but similar. I mean, when we played him before that, when we lost, we were close, right? We were up 2018, had one match point. So we felt like we played well enough and had a decent strategy, but we saw some things that we could tighten up. And so we were focusing on those couple little things. And we tried to follow those, and it didn't quite go as planned. And it was actually a really interesting match. We got down big in the super final. Not big, but we didn't have the momentum. They were playing well. I was tight, didn't play super great at the beginning. Turned it around, had a couple fortunate net chords, especially on match point. And honestly, sometimes that's what it takes to beat a guy like Ben Johns, right? Like things have to fall your way because he wins all the time.
What was it that turned it in your mind? Like, because there was a clear shift in momentum.
Yep.
It was like, okay, here, like from the broadcast booth perspective, it was like, okay, Ben Johns and Tyler, they're going to take the first game. And then all of a sudden you guys turned it on. Was that a strategic thing? Was it an energy thing?
Yeah. So the shot that changed it for me was when Julian just charged in, backhand flick from his shoelaces, went by both of them, landed inside the baseline. I mean, 1 out of 10 shot, like so risky, but it fell. The crowd roared. Julian was popping blood vessels, and I was like, all right, let's freaking go.
And you famously have to be careful that you don't pop blood vessels.
Exactly. I know. See, I'm just walking on eggshells, trying to keep my heartbeat low enough. Just like,
Julian, stop. I have to calm down right now. So
I'm just surviving out there.
Yeah. Can you tell us? So you end up winning Super Finals 3-0. What were all of the factors that helped you win, or was the reason you won? Like, give us everything here.
I think there's several. So
yeah, let's hear them.
I mean, so talking like from the Pioneers' perspective, winning the night before on an emotional high, having to play the next day, I understand that's tough. So that's an advantage right there for us.
Yeah.
We also had the day off. I mean, mentally as well as physically, we got to rest, we got to recoup, we got to strategize like I talked about. Those two things helped. And we were just able to really take our time and think, and we wanted to come in aggressive, and we were fresh and ready both mentally and physically. And, you know, on top of a few fortunate points going our way, a couple let cords. So I think just everything kind of fell in place, which is the only way realistically that anyone, including us, is going to beat a team like the Pioneers 3-0. I mean, how many times out of 100 would that happen? Maybe once, maybe twice. I don't know.
You're being so modest right now.
Maybe. Okay, maybe 10 times, whatever. not often.
You didn't even have to play in mixed
Right.
for I would be curious to know what the strategy would have been if it went to a dream breaker. Because that's what we were all talking about in the truck. Like, this one's for sure going 5. How do you beat Ben Johns in singles? But did you have that laid out already, or was this just like a assumed belief in your team that you guys were going to sweep 3-0?
No, we were very realistic. We were like Julian said in the interview, we were like, we just please don't get down 2-0 after men's and women's. Like, we thought we would have a chance even if we split that. But dream breaker wise, we were just going to play straight up. I mean, in terms of skill level, Julian, me, Catherine, Irina, I think is what we talked about. All pretty strong singles players. I was probably the dark horse, not knowing what I'd put out there since I don't play singles anymore. But yeah, I mean, we were just going to have to go straight up in the dream breaker if it came to that.
I also want to ask too about your perspective on the ladies' performance, because Megan and Etta, they also don't lose, and they have been so good together. Catherine and Irina played out of their mind, but what did you see in that women's doubles matchup?
Yeah, so one thing we saw when they lost to them, like, pretty handily, that, you know, a couple days before, they got down big, and then Catherine, she started playing more aggressive, and I think that just sets the tone for how they play together. And when Catherine's moving, she's hitting more shots, and Irina's, you know, doing what she does, countering well. That's when they play their best, and so we saw that. So we took that piece, and Catherine was like, "Look, I'm just gonna go out there and play aggressive." Irina as well, but I was bending over after some of those shots, like with my hand on my head, like I was in disbelief at some of the points. There was a point that was insane that the Pioneers won, and I walked on the court. I looked at Catherine, and I'm like, if that's what it takes for them to win a point, we're good. She goes, "Oh, you're right," and then they just continued to destroy, which is, I mean, they had amazing points too, right? I mean, it's not like the Pioneers played poorly. We just played incredible.
Which one was your favorite point?
Oh my gosh.
If you could pick.
Probably the one that ended the whole thing and you got paid at the end of it all.
Maybe that one. Yeah. I honestly, it's a blur. I mean, when adrenaline is so high throughout the entire time, it's a blur, you know, like everything ran together. It was crazy.
We haven't talked about this, but Drew Brees came. He's one of the owners of the team. He came to sit on the bench and support you guys at the Super Finals. Was that like extra added pressure, or did that help, hurt, non-factor?
I think it helps. I mean, if you have your team owner there, you just feel more of a sense of camaraderie, like your whole team is there, versus an owner that's maybe absent, not there as much, because those guys have crazy busy lives. So we were super fortunate that he came. His son even had an all-star baseball game that night.
Aww.
And he sat his son down and was like, "Look, buddy, like, I'm going to do this," explain why. His son was cool with it.
Yeah.
His son won the baseball game, but still, the fact that Drew's willing to sacrifice for the team just makes you feel kind of empowered. And it's a privilege to play pickleball in general, but then to play for people like this, kind of become friends with Drew Brees. It's an honor. So how could you not be excited to do that?
Yeah. Did you tell Drew Brees he could call you son if that would help the
Yeah.
weekend a little bit?
I asked if he would adopt me, even though I'm currently adopting a little baby girl. But I was like, how would that work? I'm not sure. But I'll take the last name Breeze. It's cool.
Yeah. Thomas
Thomas
Brees.
Breeze has a
It's
nice
cool.
ring
I
to
think
it.
if you become an actor or something, I almost feel like that's the name, the stage name you should go with.
Okay, remind me.
I will
Thomas
definitely,
Breeze.
because you have had a crazy year that I personally, as I've watched your year unfold, I was like, this should be an after school special, like a movie made for TV that everybody has to watch to motivate them in life. Can you walk us through all the highs and lows of your year? Like, it's really incredible.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, most of the challenges have been personal, health. We've been trying to start a family we've been married almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
So we're going through an adoption, which is an incredibly difficult process in a lot of ways. So, I mean, I guess beginning of the year, I mean, we just started, but we signed with an agency for an adoption. And so that you start to get matched, you start to get, have conversations with people that are looking to give their get up for adoption. And there's so many things with that. I mean, I don't even know what I would say, but just the emotional toll that it takes, just the things that you have to decide, the decisions that are put in front of you that you would never thought you would have to decide in a scenario like that. So that was tough, as well as my heart stuff. So starting last year, when I'm playing in a tournament, when adrenaline is, I guess, a certain amount in my body, my heart would trigger. It would go haywire. I didn't know how high it was getting until I finally tracked it on a heart monitor. So it got up to 300, over 300 is what the doctor said.
And is that healthy?
I think not.
Okay.
So
very unhealthy.
So I was seeing a doctor in San Antonio, and it was kind of out of his scope. He sent me to the top heart doctor in Austin. He read it and knew the syndrome I had, which is called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Rare thing where it's congenital, so you're born with an extra wire in your heart, which causes your heart to beat incredibly fast. Potentially deadly, and mine was, because 300 is, you can't live with that.
Yeah.
The doctor was surprised that I didn't have a heart attack or pass out or die once he figured it out. And so once he got in there, he was like, you need surgery tomorrow, basically. So next morning, I'm freaking out, right? Because a guy with his experience, I mean, he's worried. And so my wife and I were like, wow, this has got really real, because I knew something was wrong, but he was like, this is life-threatening.
Well, let's talk about that all for a second here.
Yeah.
At that moment, what are you thinking about your future, like in pickleball, with your family? Like, is it past the scope of sport and pickleball, or are you like, pickleball might be done, or is the doctor reassuring you enough that you are going to be able to continue your sporting career?
There wasn't much reassurance until after the surgery, because he didn't know what he was working with till he got in there. So it was a huge question mark, but it certainly went outside of pickleball. I mean, we're about to adopt a precious baby girl, and my wife, and like, you think about your family, all that stuff. And so obviously pickleball is part of that. I knew MLP in the back of my mind is coming up like next week, and so I was like, I'll have to figure that out, but like, let's make sure I live past tomorrow
first.
So it was incredibly emotional. And when I had the surgery, my whole family came, my brother, sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, parents, and the surgery was supposed to take less than an hour. So they go in there, and it takes almost 3 hours, and they didn't get any updates while I was in there. And
hospitals are famous for that.
It wasn't necessarily a high risk surgery, but based on where the wires were, if it was near like your AV node or certain areas, it was really risky, because you could cauterize the wrong thing and not make it. So my family's pacing, starting to get emotional, like, what's going on, and it ended up being fine, thankfully. But it put a lot of things into perspective. Pickleball and really everything else in life, honestly.
Well, let's not leave it there then. Like, is this like life flashing before your eyes? Like, is that the severity of this?
I wouldn't say quite that severe. And I think it's because, like, the episodes I'm having, it's not like I passed out. I was short of breath. I wasn't in like severe pain. So I didn't know how severe it was. The only thing I knew was like when I work out, when I train, my heart gets like 180, 190, and I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I literally felt, I was like, this feels like it's double. And I would tell the first 3 times it happened, I told my wife's a nurse practitioner. I was like, it feels like it's almost double, like literally. I'm like, how is this possible?
Were you like, I'm
yeah.
a Superman? Like, because part of me would be like, if I can get my heart rate up to 300, like, well, like something, yeah, like Rookie of the Year, but with the heart.
Yeah, in the opposite way.
Yeah, in the opposite way.
So it almost killed me, man.
Yeah.
Where does it stand now, though? Like, what's the verdict they gave you? Like, where are you? Like this, if this is that severe, like, how are you approaching the remainder of your pickleball stuff?
He said I'm 100% cured, and
wow.
Yeah, so there's no other issue. So there ended up being 3 wires in there, and he cauterized all of them. They weren't in dangerous spots, and so when they're not in dangerous spots, you can properly cauterize them. The only time that it might not last long or work is when they can barely do it because it's in a risky area. So
wow.
He walked out of the room after 3 hours, told my family, his words were, Thomas had Wolf Parkinson White. He no longer does.
Wow.
Like
so back up the timeline of all this, because Dallas was not that long ago. Like just to,
right.
So Dallas was when it hit 300, right? You got rushed back to the hospital.
Yeah. So that lasted 10
like
minutes.
Date wise, give us the because it's insane to me that you had a surgery on your heart and you were able to, within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, come to MLP. So this was what?
Yeah. So Thursday is when I played singles. I don't know what day that was, the Texas Open.
Beginning of June.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah. So
June 5th or 6th or something.
Saw the cardiologist on Monday. They figured out the syndrome, got surgery Wednesday. And so that was the week before MLP. So Wednesday was, 9-10 days before Friday of MLP. He told me after, he's like, you should be good to go after 7 days. You won't have any restrictions. You can exercise. And I tried to explain, like, it's not, I'm just going to go for a jog. Like, I'm going to be in a really high intense, high adrenaline environment.
Right.
Which is what triggered my heart in the past. So I'm like, are you sure it's okay for my heart to handle? But I think just technology and the procedure these days is, thankfully, it wasn't open heart surgery. They went through my neck and through my groins.
Oh my gosh.
So those are the incision sites that I had to heal. He's like, after 7 days, man, you're good. And so I showed up to San Clemente not knowing if I'd be ready to properly play. First few days, I'm struggling to walk because I'm so sore. And
oh my God.
By Thursday, I had like a decent practice, and I was like, I feel like I'm good to go. So then I just went for it on Friday.
So what was what did the Mad Drops have? Somebody waiting in the wings or eyes on somebody, or you had assured them enough that you would probably be fine?
I assured them based on what the doctor told me, because he knows what he's talking about. But the way I felt when I first got there, I was like my legs are so sore. How can I run?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I had chest tightness. I was having weird palpitations because the heart's irritated. So that was concerning. But he was like, after 7 days, you are good to go. So I told Zubin, I was like, hey man, like he says I'll be good. So we're just going to trust that. So we didn't even actually have one conversation about alternates or anybody.
Okay.
Wow.
Because that's a last minute decision anyway, right? Like whether I wasn't going to play on Monday or Thursday night, you have to wait to see what happens in Challenger anyway to see who's available. So zero conversations about that.
Okay. And moving forward, no, you don't need to monitor at all. You don't have to have any checkups. It's doctors like, you're good to go for the rest of your life.
Good to go. I mean, I think there's a general quick checkup after 6 weeks. I'm like, are you sure you don't need to see me like the week after?
Yeah.
After something like this?
Or every year for the next 40 years? Come on. This is it?
It's kind of amazing, man.
It's really good news. Really good news.
Seems like a blessing in disguise, too, for it to have come to a head like that, to figure it out, have it resolved. Now you don't,
right.
You don't have to worry about it.
I know. The interesting part is it's happened so many times. I've had other arrhythmia stuff.
Right.
And I think because I got an EKG so soon after the major episode, which hadn't happened in the past, that little extra wave that they saw, they were able to see. Because I've gotten a million EKGs, been at the ER, all this stuff. They could never figure it out. But that one EKG finally showed it, because I think my heart got wrecked 2 days before, right? So
if that didn't happen, you might not have had this kind of clarity.
It would have still been a huge question mark. Yep.
Wow.
And
that is insane.
With that question mark, would you have kept trying to play, or what would have been your course of action?
No. So when I got off the court on Thursday, I just had the thought, and it was funny because the first singles match I ever played in pickleball was singles against Ryan Sherry at the Texas Open.
Yeah.
And that happened. And I had the thought, like, interesting. My career started that way and it just ended that way. So I was completely expecting to not be able to play again because risking your heart, like I'm not going to try to push through it just to play pickleball. Like it's not my entire life. It's an awesome hobby right now. So yeah, everything was up in the air at that point.
Wow.
Okay. So the Thomas Wilson after school movie on ABC. That seems to be like a good place for it. Software sales guy. Yeah. Software sales guy, has a dream of starting a family, is now going through this high stress and very emotional situation of adopting a new child, new baby girl, while also following his passion and love for pickleball stemming from collegiate tennis, only to find out that his heart is no longer capable of propelling him to his pickleball dreams. And then a hero doctor, I picture someone very chiseled, muscular, comes in,
He's
saves
a little
the
pudgy,
day.
but it's cool. He's well fed.
Okay.
He's earned it. He's
we
earned
say
it.
healthy.
He's healthy.
And and now, all of that's fantastic news. And with that, what does 2023, the rest of 2023, look like for you if we're gonna like really put an end cap on this movie here?
Yeah, I'm just still trying to digest the fact of what happened. I think it feels surreal because that was so bang bang with surgery, MLP. I'm just like, what happened? Like, what's going on? So now it's just, okay, kind of refocus on the adoption. There's some challenges we're dealing with there. So get through that. The baby's due in September.
Okay.
End of September. And she's in Indiana. And so we'll have to stay there for 2 weeks before you can cross state lines. So that'll be an interesting thing to deal with, being parents for the first time take the baby home from the hospital and like what, a hotel or Airbnb. So we're probably gonna have to Amazon all the things to wherever we're staying. So that'll be really interesting. So I think it's just
buy it at Costco and then return it.
It's true. Okay.
Don't.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I'll keep that in my back pocket.
But are you able to also be part of this process throughout? Like, are you in contact with the mother currently, and do you get to, be along for the ride as much as possible?
Yeah, we are. So we actually visited them a month or 6 weeks ago, met them for the first time. And this couple actually already has 3 kids, so we got to hang out with them. They're 3, 2, and 1, so they're having kids left and right. So that was also a surreal experience, as you can imagine. I mean, you go meet this person and you're like, wow, that's my future baby in this other woman's tummy. Like it's so interesting. And and their situation is crazy. It's insane. So it's, we're going to be rescuing a little baby girl for sure.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't know how much you can elaborate there, but that's,
I'm not sure either. I think I could probably say whatever, but there's some really graphic things that I don't know would be.
No, that's
okay to say on this.
We're very happy for you. It sounds like everything is turning up Thomas Wilson at the moment. What? Let's talk about the draft coming up. Like you weren't drafted first on the Mad Drops. Like you were not. And where are you going to be drafted this time around after the Super Finals win? Some self-promoting, I'm assuming, heavy self-promotion.
Not happening.
Yeah, that's major Thomas Wilson style.
Where are you getting drafted? Are you going to be first round?
Man, that's a really tough question. I'd say probably not. I don't know. So talking to some team owners and hearing what kind of their philosophies are, they're wildly different. Some are like 100% stat driven. Some are kind of do the eyeball test. Some are a mix. So I really think it just kind of depends on what the overall strategy is and what
which
they're looking
approach
for.
Works the best.
And and like we saw last time, and the picks kind of ended up a little bit interesting, right? So I expect the same thing. So I think it's completely up in the air, but I just would love to get out there and compete again. Obviously, I have no idea.
I think you're going to be higher than the 4th round. There's no way.
That'd be less stressful than last time. I mean, I was like, oh boy. I mean, so the interesting part is I felt like I went a little high when I was on the Lions, and I was like, hey, it would be really nice to get picked lower because then you're sacrifice a little bit so your team can be better.
Yeah.
And that's what
Interesting.
happened. But I was like, that was a little low. No, there's only
So
a couple
where's the
things
You're
sweet
like
spot?
lower, but
don't
not
know.
that low.
A
So
little
where
higher.
would the perfect place be?
So you
High
don't-
4th round, low
Yeah.
3rd round?
No, someone told me I was 44th. I don't know where I was picked.
You were 44th.
Okay.
4th
yeah,
round,
so-
44th. That's only
Hey.
4 players short of making Premier level,
right. I mean, there's
which
so many
is
good players,
shocking
right?
to me. I know, but like to me, in my mind, I feel like you're severely underrated.
I'm
But...
going for 43rd.
Okay. Well,
There
where
you
is the
go.
sweet
Let's do
spot?
this.
Because if you get drafted
It's only
too
one place
high,
to go.
I mean, if you get
Yeah.
drafted too high or high, then it rests on you to carry the team, right? And then,
Right. Yeah. So there's right.
so what is the sweet spot there? Like where for Thomas Wilson? Because I think it's different, probably depending on your personality and your confidence and
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Right. Yeah.
Do you
so
want to carry a team?
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I think having a little bit more experience now than I have in the past makes me feel more confident. So I second, third round would be cool. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll
Is there any team, like as you're looking at ownership groups, the different teams from Challenger, knowing what you know now with your experience with the LA Magic, it's hard to top Drew Brees, who like literally flew in for the event, missed his kid's baseball game, NFL future Hall of
Started calling
Famer,
you
MVP,
son.
and a
started calling you
Boilermaker. We
son.
both went to Purdue.
And a
Don't forget that.
Boilermaker. That's right. Big Ten.
Yeah.
So, are there any ownership groups? I don't know how honest you can be. Where you're like, oh yeah, yes, and like, I hope, I hope not.
So I'm not super familiar with the Challenger level teams. I mean, you're not around them a whole lot, so I don't know
Yeah.
a ton of the owners.
Well, maybe
there's
ignorance
none-
is bliss.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, I'm sure it'd be good regardless. I'm sure there's some that are,
Yeah.
will connect better than others, but there's not any that I have my eye on. It's a bummer to not be on the Mad Drops anymore. I feel a lot of us feel like that, right? Because you're so bonded to your team, like you really feel like a team now after 3 massive events.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
We'll be
it's
mortal enemies in the second half of 2023.
I know, yeah. But
How
I'm going to be cheering the Mad Drops on in the Challenger level, though, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess, what's your player's perspective on the promotion relegation system? Obviously, everything's shaking out this year to determine who goes
Yeah.
where in 2024. What's your outlook, just in general, on how it's going, the fit for promotion relegation with
Yeah,
MLP?
I think it makes sense the way they're doing it because I mean this whole thing is just exploding. There's so many new teams, team owners, so they're trying to do the best they can. It makes sense to me to have half for Premier, half Challenger, see where the
Mhm.
teams end up. That's only fair because imagine if it was the first 12 teams in, like what would be the incentive for the next 12 to come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that part makes sense. The only part I wondered about is like, a couple guys at the top of Challenger, like not having the chance to go up to Premier was interesting. I thought that, I'm sure those players wanted that, but I also understood the other side where it's like, well, then who's going to trade their players from Premier to Challenger? That's probably less likely. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's all working out well, and it'll be interesting to see how next year works. And
Yeah.
it sounds like more solidified teams, maybe have a couple franchise tags if you prefer. I don't know what's happening actually, but it seems like that's what will happen. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's the beauty of where we're at right now is that the sport is being shaped by the players and the leagues.
Right.
And this will dictate like the future of pickleball for the next lifetime, maybe.
Right.
So you get to set the traditions, Thomas. If you want to wear
Me.
pink shirts on
Just me.
every Wednesday nights is pink shirt night in
Well, yes.
professional
On
pickleball.
Wednesdays,
Yeah.
we wear pink. I forgot to
I'm
wear
going to
my
start
pink.
promoting that heavy.
Yeah. Okay.
Just passionate about that.
Yeah, that's just the thing. Your thing, Thomas Wilson's thing.
That's all I care about.
Yeah. Well, Thomas, we're super, super happy for you. Honestly, couldn't have happened to a better person.
Thanks.
I've been a fan for a
Yeah.
long time. I know that we connected years ago when you first
Yeah.
started lighting up the singles scene, and it's fun to see how far you've come. And fingers crossed for continued success. Anything else, Mish, before we say goodbye to Thomas?
No, I'm just so happy that you're healthy and life is looking up after what must have been a really tumultuous time for you and your family. So I'm really
Yeah.
glad you're okay, first and foremost. Obviously, pickleball is not important when it comes to your health. So I'm glad that
Right.
that's all in order. And cheers to being fourth round, pick number 43 to Thomas Wilson.
Let's
Paddle
go.
taps.
43.
Season 2, 40. We're going to start a
Let's
campaign. We're going to get pink
Okay.
t-shirts and
Thomas.
professional microphone headphones for it.
Thomas Wilson for 43rd. Make
Let's go.
those t-shirts like Sam Querrey has.
Make, make the fourth round great again.
Yes.
So, okay.
I'd vote for you.
I would too. Thomas, thank you so much for your time and for all the entertainment that you've provided on the courts. And yeah, good luck with the rest of 2023. And with being a new parent, that's super exciting.
Freaking
Greatest
out, man.
adventure.
Freaking
Greatest
out.
adventure
It's
that
gonna
you'll
be
ever
great.
have. Yeah.
You're gonna
Oh,
nail
man.
it.
Yeah,
So-
send me some cliff notes,
Girl
please. Thank you.
dad, another
I
girl
will.
dad.
Another
There's
girl
a lot
dad.
of girl
I'm
dads
excited
on the
about
pod.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
great.
Little princess.
Future,
Little dad
oh,
over here.
future
Let's go.
pickleballer.
So,
Let's
Maybe.
do it. Yay.
okay. Thanks, Thomas.
All right,
Bye,
y'all. Thank
Thomas.
y'all. Appreciate it.
Thomas, still with us. I know we said our goodbyes, but we cannot get enough of you.
I don't want to go.
You don't want to go. We tried to kick him off, everybody, and he was like, nope, it's either this or selling software.
Yeah.
And he chose this. That means that, Michelle, you and I have done our job
Yes.
impeccably. Michelle,
Yeah.
you, I think, honestly, like when I'm looking at people in the pickleball space, few, if any, people have more pickleball cross their eyeballs on a weekly basis. Like
Pump
how
my
many
tires, Tyson. Please.
how many
I
hours
need it.
this week did you spend with your eyeballs glued to pickleball?
Well, I was 30 hours last weekend prior to MLP with
Mhm.
PPA. So this one had to be a record set because we had more matches and more hours of play. My guess would be somewhere around like 45.
45
Mostly
hours.
watching Thomas Wilson, of course.
Of
I was
course.
locked on the
Mostly.
LA Mad Drops the entire time.
The
Let's go
highlight
drops.
reel, which is Thomas
Mad
Wilson.
Drops.
Thomas, the highlight reel Wilson.
Yeah.
I don't know. That might be Andiamo, but whatever.
You're still in the highlights if you're with Julian,
That's true.
right?
How many hours did you watch, Tyson?
I
And not on mute, most importantly.
never watch it on mute, but the volume but does fluctuate based on what my
It's okay, I'll
daughters
still
are up
cut through
to.
glass anyways. I, told
I
Thomas
probably
about this.
did,
You'll still hear me even on a low volume.
Yeah, I watched every day at least a few hours.
Okay.
And it's like always on while I'm doing other work and stuff. And I have to say, there was one thing while watching the entire weekend that really, really stood out to me.
What, me making memes finally this week?
No, a lot of people made
Oh,
memes.
you did?
I did.
Congratulations.
Yeah, they took something way out of context. Go figure. But yeah,
Classic.
I made my
Classic
I thought that's what
memes.
you were for sure going to say, but go
No,
on. Continue.
No. My one take is how competitive these teams are amongst themselves. Like we look at the Mad Drops.
Mhm.
They don't make the finals this weekend, but they qualify for super finals and win. That means that they got beat by other teams that were not in the super finals, which means that these teams are so close in talent that it could go any direction, any day. And it's very important what group you're playing in. Those are my takes. Like, honestly, like group matters a lot, and it's still anyone's game. Like if you are taking the super finals from Ben John's team, that means to me that this sport has a lot of top talent and it's not easy to predict anymore.
Right. And I think the Milwaukee Mashers were a perfect example of that this weekend. A team that seemingly came out of nowhere. They were nowhere to be found the last couple of tournaments. And to add on that, it's such an advantage in terms of where the teams land in 2024. If you make it past group play into any round of the knockout rounds, the separation of points there is crucial. And I think they changed that structure after Mesa with the additional points that they give in the knockout round. So that is another thing for me. And any team that has Ben Johns, like the team that gets the number one pick in this redraft,
It's going to be competitive.
they're going to make the premier level. That's just how it is. And in my opinion, he goes number one.
Yeah.
Has to.
Yeah.
You?
He
He
has
does.
to.
He
Yeah.
has to.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, not that that's a huge switch, but I think, for 100% certainty, Ben Johns, no matter what,
I think it is a switch though, because previously people were like, you need women are more important. You need to get the top female, but
yeah.
Did
So
that
is
bother you, Thomas?
no, did
Oh,
not.
no. He's a girl dad now.
I'm a girl dad, dude. Come on.
No, I know. I'm a girl dad too. I was getting defensive.
Okay, but
Stop yelling at me.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Why? What's wrong with choosing a girl first, Thomas?
Okay, so how did that flip from a player's perspective, Thomas? Because yes, it was all women's first, and now, especially too with flipping the order, the coin toss, you can now choose men or women's doubles to go first. All the different nuances, shifting of the guard a little bit there.
Top 5 picks, Thomas. Give them to us.
Go.
Well, I will say I think it's just a larger sample size. Like we all got to see we got to see more of the Ben Johns factor. Not that it was surprising,
Yeah.
but I think we all thought the top female would be more important. So like you look at Annalie's team versus Ben's team, she's amazing and dominant, but Ben can cover more court more effectively, so he's almost guaranteed 2 wins every time. So
Right. So you're a GM. You are
Oh gosh.
Adam Stone, for example. You have to pick. Ben Johns is off the table
Okay.
because he's already been selected, but you get the second pick. Who are you taking?
Feel like you got to go Annalie.
Okay.
Because I think there's enough of a gap between Ben and the next guy. So Riley's interesting because he's also one that can dominate a court. And I think, I don't know if it was team thing, but he obviously wasn't quite as dominant as Ben. So I think overall people would still probably take Annalie next.
Okay.
So next guy off the table.
Riley.
Do you think it's going to go 3, 4, 5 dudes? Or Parento, in my mind, would be up in the mix with women.
I'd go Annalie, then I'd go probably Riley. After that, I mean, Catherine was incredible. Yeah,
she's
got to be up there.
But Irina has freaking 5 titles, so how can we disrespect her?
Well, you can't. But I mean, I think she's a little bit more of a support player.
Yeah, that's true.
Than a Catherine.
But she gives so much support that she wins 50% of the events at MLP.
Which is, you can't discount that.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So who's your number 5 there? Who's top 5 picks? So you got Johns, you've got Waters, you've got Riley Newman, and then you've got Parento. You're saying at 4?
Probably.
Okay.
It's tough without seeing a list because I know I'm going to forget people.
Yeah.
Then they didn't do their job self-promoting.
No, I'm just not
like Thomas. I'm just
not that smart.
And who's number 5? J-Dub. We got JW.
I was going to say
there.
J-Dub.
Yeah.
You got to go J-Dub probably.
Okay. I like that.
If I thought about this for 10 more minutes, it'd probably be completely different because
you change it all up.
I'm blacking out right now, so I'm making stuff up.
After this airs, are you going to have to text everybody and be like, I actually forgot that you should be number 1?
Yeah. I'm not sending out a ton of apologies. But hey, I told him I want to be 43rd. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not like he's out here saying
I'm not saying I should be 4th.
Yeah, that means there's 42 people in front of you that you value more than yourself.
Much more. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Who, I guess for next year, which challenger player jumps up to premier level?
Yeah, guaranteed. Which ones are guaranteed here?
Ooh, I'd say Pablito.
Yeah.
Okay.
Garnett?
Gosh, I mean, after this weekend, he took a massive jump. Connor and Hunter, I feel Hunter Johnson.
Yeah.
And then Christian Alshon. I mean, those are the ones that are in the mix. But I mean, Hunter, like we saw what he can do in Premier. He played for the Mad Drops. He played fantastic, and he was probably the main reason we got to the semis that tournament. So he's proven, and he's incredible at singles. So I think he's in there.
Okay. Do you want to answer a harder question then?
Probably not.
Who's not going to be in Premier?
Ooh.
That was in. Is that too hard of a question?
I like everyone. I can't do that to people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I would have to think about it for a little bit longer than 2 seconds too.
And it's very, very difficult because some of the teams with losing records, you look at each individual and like sometimes it's hard to tell like where that came from or why. And so you have to look outside of that scope. So it is tricky. Sorry, I put that on you, Thomas.
It's okay. I deflected it. It's all good.
Yeah, nobody's going to catch that and then hit you up on social media to tell us what you think.
Play it safe.
Anything else, Mish, from the tournament?
Well, I just think, one more shout out to Irina Terashenko. Like 4 MLP titles. Thomas said it. Like, it's so hard to win a match, let alone a title. And the fact that she's done it 4 times prior to the season finale is impressive to me. Obviously, the format has changed, but she's continued that success. And I just think Drew Brees it's really cool to see somebody of that iconic stature literally jumping around on the court with his team after winning the season finale. Like, that is cool. That to me is like Major League Pickleball is on the map for that reason. And then there were even NFL guys in the stands who were potential future owners, I think, watching, and it's just really cool to see that level of support. And Thomas Wilson was on my list, actually, not because we just talked to you. Before I knew you were a guest, I put you on my list because underrated. I just think there are so many guys that went higher than Thomas, in my opinion, that are way overrated. I'm not going to dive into specifics there yet.
Wow.
Because I'm gotta play it safe here too. I'm on the broadcast every weekend. I'm seeing these guys. However, I will stick to the positive and talk about the people that I think should jump up. And Thomas is
you can tell the truth once I get off. It's okay.
Okay.
You don't have to butter me up.
Thomas's
that was truly, it's on my notes. I take notes every weekend of my little, pickleball takeaways.
I see no notes.
Oh, it's really?
That
means I'm doing a good job reading my teleprompter
really
because
good.
it's to the left of my screen.
You're a professional.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Keep it coming. Don't look on memes because last one through, your girls are on there and it's embarrassing. I was like, oh yeah, well, when it came out, it's not exactly what I meant, but that sure is translating that. Yeah, I was like, cool angle there. And then they pan over to the guys. Much. I know, and they finally got me, which is funny.
I'm trying to play it so safe, so I never end up on that account. But also,
I enjoy it. It's terrifying.
I enjoy.
I made it on there. Remember that for Mesa?
Yeah. It was.
You did? What was it?
When we were getting interviewed after we won, I put my hand up for a high five, and Irina just totally ghosted me. And then I just
put it back down. Yeah.
Oh
yeah, I do remember that.
They made it look extra bad, of course, but it was hilarious.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's fine. No, there's worse things to get skewered for on memes of pickleball than that.
That was mild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really it for me. I think it was, I don't know. I feel like it was kind of an advantage I don't know if it was an advantage to start Premier or Challenger, because now that I feel like we've learned so much in the 3 events that, like, going into this draft for the Premier level teams, Challengers obviously switching to Premier to Challenger. I think the Premier level teams have a huge advantage now of the player selection, knowing who works, who doesn't.
Yeah.
Seeing it in this format too with the season. So that's just one thing that I'm looking out for come July. And San Clemente was awesome. So fun.
And I think really there's so many in Challenger this time. Like, there's so many interesting picks, like people that don't even really play tournaments, some like super skewed picks.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen this time. It's going to be way more straight up and more legit picks.
I mean, there's more on the line.
Around.
Yeah. Experimentation season with the Challenger League and the front half of this year. Now it's time to make sure you get promoted.
Yeah. Right. And like Caitlin Kerr said, like, no more friends. Like, I think the GMs at first were kind of like maybe approaching it less businessy. And now it's like, you're not performing, you're out. That's what I think. It's going to be a little bit more cutthroat.
Yeah.
So, Thomas, before we close down here, what was the celebration like? Like, after you win, Drew Brees take everybody out? Like, what, and are you still celebrating even now? Like, is this just a break in your celebration and then you're going to go back to the club? Like, what is going on?
First of all, no clubbing.
Okay.
But yeah, we all went out to eat on a big patio. A bunch of people came. It was cool because, we just kind of mingled for a bit, but then it turned out like kind of like a wedding. Like, people were giving toasts, like saying like thank you and like what they thought was special.
Gosh, fun.
It turned out to be like kind of a special moment.
Did you do a toast? Did you feel pressure to do a toast?
Yeah, well, we all got pressured into doing a toast. Started with Zubin, but then little Rylan, the real GM, he's calling out people like toast, and so you have to if he calls you out.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, even really 100 Yates gave toast. Like, everybody was giving toast.
Everybody was giving toast.
Awesome. That's cool. Where was it?
Like Avila something, like some Mexican restaurant like close by.
Sounds expensive.
Super expensive.
Yeah.
Did you buy everybody's meal with your $60,000 check?
Hey, I got babies to pay for.
Yeah, yeah. Come on, dude. Every dollar he spends now is taken away from his child's future.
Straight to the legal fees. Nothing fun. Kidding me?
Again, thank you, Thomas, Michelle. So awesome that you were there in person, and love hearing all of your insight. If you missed the action this weekend, you can go to majorleaguepickleball.net, click the watch button up in the at the top banner, and it will have all of the action that we saw in San Clemente. You can follow Major League Pickleball on all social media platforms for all the latest news and updates. And that's it for us at Inside Major League Pickleball. Paddle taps, because we paddle tap here, Thomas Wilson.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Thumb tap.
See ya.